Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsya Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Okay, some points from yesterday? Oh, last class. Usko band.
So we initially started with the discussion, Prabhuji, this principle versus details. So what is principle and what is detail? What can be adjusted?
So what is principle and what is it?
Principle is that some rules or regulations which cannot be adjusted according to time or some things like that. It cannot be adjusted or changed. And details is that within the principles what can be adjusted, changed. And then that famous conversation between what Prabhupada clarified that how to understand what can be changed and what cannot be changed, that requires a little intelligence, Prabhupada said. And then you also said that the safest way is to always confirm with authorities, and that if wherever there is a confusion, you should always.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Some other points?
So, in the same point only, principles and details, we saw that all the 64 angas of bhakti are principles and they should always be followed, and details can be adjusted here and there. And then we discussed that even though some things may be details for ISKCON devotees, but they are actually principles. We discussed many points like the aratis, then chanting of 16 rounds. So these are all the details, but for ISKCON devotees, they are actually principles given by our founder Acharya.
Good. Okay.
So in 64 angas of bhakti, first 20 are the primary ones. Especially the first 10 are that which we need to follow, and next 11 to 20 are those which we need to avoid. And in the last 44 also, the last 5 are the most prominent angas of bhakti, so they are as good as the primary angas of the bhakti.
Okay, thank you. Something more?
That
all 64 angas.
कौन है?
Suraj.
हाँ, क्या हो गया 64?
All 64 angas which Rup Goswami mentioned in NOD, that are the principles, not the details.
Good.
Approach that in the 7th chapter, you told that Bharat Maharaj he carried the deer with him, but he did not ask the authority. So in the sadhana level, one should ask the authority.
Spiritual authorities.
giving up the company of non-devotee, you are telling that especially you are focusing on these 2 points, like hearing from unauthorized source and reading unauthorized books. And in that you mentioned in Nectar of Devotion, this is the only thing, Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami has mentioned twice.
Asatsang.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, you told that if something is details and one want to do some change, then it must be confirmed by some authority.
That makes
Perfect.
the matter perfect.
So you are telling about that the following four regulatory principle is not for the spiritual advancement.
No, they are not angas of bhakti.
Angas of the bhakti.
Definitely they are for spiritual advancement.
And that are not angas of bhakti. That we discussed 64 principle. That and associating with the pure devotees. These are the main thing which works like fencing for the protection of our spiritual life.
See, the four regulative principles, though not per se angas of bhakti, but indirectly they are angas of bhakti because they are instructions of the spiritual master. And following the instructions of spiritual master is an anga of bhakti. So therefore, following the four regulative principles also we can say is an anga of bhakti because they are instructions of the spiritual master, though not directly within the 64 angas. आपने बोला ना, उनको बोलना था?
Just like we find some certain strong statement like embracing the tiger, or like that is compared.
Better to embrace the tiger than associate with
non-devotees. So these are because such statements are mentioned because associating with non-devotees it killed our service attitude.
Correct.
And at the same time we find that determining this Mayavad tendency in the non-devotees or even the persons, it is very difficult. That become difficult for the Raghunath Bhatta also. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has personally that he is chanting Ram Nam, but he want to become the Ram.
So what is the lesson?
We should be very, very careful
For what?
to associate with the non-devotees.
Hearing from non-bona fide sources. Yes, thank you.
You spoke about about the spiritual master. So accepting spiritual master is not a matter of a fashion that we accept and just. So one should be ready to be directed by the spiritual master instructions. And so also, if one follows the spiritual master instruction, there is no question of
Always.
always follows. No question of fall down. So if somebody is very intelligent, but he is not following, means he will surely going to fall down. Intelligence is not, will be. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu presented himself, the great personality is so intelligent, but he presented himself full number one in front of spiritual.
Okay, good.
One should satisfy the spiritual master by accepting initiation and follow the instructions. Then all the knowledge of scriptures revealed him automatically after satisfying the spiritual master properly.
Okay, good.
Prabhupada mentioned if one carefully reads the four books, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrit, Prabhupada gave teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and NOD, then if it is read carefully, then there is a sufficient knowledge to understand science of Krishna consciousness, and one need not take the trouble of reading other books. And in addition, there is a question discussed why sannyasis accept some unfit disciples. So in that point, it is mentioned the sannyasis in line of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mission, even at the risk, accept some disciples, and later on, maybe by the mercy of spiritual master and Lord Chaitanya, they will take up seriously.
So what is condemned there? What is condemned in that? Yes, for the wrong motive. For the wrong motive, simply to increase following, prestige. So all those three items there, accepting disciples, reading too many books and constructing big temples, projects, so all those if they're done with the wrong motive, then they will not be conducive for spiritual purpose.
Prabhupada changed so many details, but going to crossing ocean and giving female diksha, all those things. But we cannot we cannot change all the details.
Okay,
Brahman diksha.
Okay.
So, but means like we cannot change after Prabhupada. We should not change anything. We should just follow Prabhupada.
How come you came all the way from Hyderabad today? Many oceans you also crossed.
Guruji, like you told one question that generally people ask why Ritviks are successful. That in that you told that your standard definition. What is the definition of success? That money or the property or the followers are not successful, but whether they are properly get connected or they have connection with Guru or
Pleasing Guru and
Pleasing
Krishna. That is real success. Samsiddhi haritoshanam. Okay, fine, let's go ahead. Okay, chapter 8. Any questions on chapter 8? Okay.
Guruji, in offenses to be avoided, there is one 23 point, point number 23. One should not introduce any opposing scripture.
Opposing scripture. That means not in line with Vaishnava Siddhanta.
Okay.
Like Mayavad scriptures.
Okay, that way. But because sometimes even Vaishnava scriptures, there are contradictory statements.
No, not like that. Opposing means totally opposing the Siddhanta.
And just below the paragraph, there is like one should not begin worship.
One should begin the
One
worship.
should not worship the deity before a non-devotee.
Okay.
So we see so many people who, like now, who is a non-devotee devotee? There is a very.
So this is a specifically referring to services like dressing the deities, offering bhoga. So these should not be done in front of.
But worship, even that offering aarti is also like part of worship only. No?
Oh, that is part of worship, but then that's for everyone's benefit. So there are some things which can be done in front of everyone. There are some which cannot be done.
Just
so this is specifically referring to the worship which is done by the pujaris, like after the dressing of the deities also there is offering of various items. So that is done inside. So that type of worship.
And just 2-3 lines below is, one devotee should worship Ganpati because he removes.
This question has to come.
Yeah.
So one thing is, this list of offenses is coming from Hari Bhakti Vilas, right? It's not given by Rupa Goswami. That's one thing. Second thing is, Bhanuswami Maharaj commenting on the, he's translating the commentaries. So, but he comments saying that no Acharya has commented on this specific item. No Acharya has commented. That's another.
Commentary on what exactly? Commentary on which?
On this specific anga that is mentioned here, or this offense that is mentioned about this worshipping Ganpati.
But this is not there in the original NOD, because which is Rupa Goswami's writing?
No, this is not Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami just speaks, one should avoid seva pras, nama pras, that's all. He doesn't say anything. So this list is coming, this list Jiva Goswami gives, commenting on Rupa Goswami's verses. Jiva Goswami gives this list from the Hari Bhakti Vilas. And therefore Srila Prabhupada is taking that. So now Bhanu Maharaj, he's translating Acharya's commentaries to Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And he writes that no Acharya has commented on this specific offense of worshipping Ganpati. Even though demigod worship is condemned, but this point has come up here, but no Acharya has commented on it. And so then he states from Sri Vaishnavas, he says the Sri Vaishnavas, they worship Vishwaksena instead of Ganpati. That is what he says. And then he also says that in the Sat Kriya Deepika that's Gopal Bhatta Goswami, right? So there also he says that he also recommends worshipping Vishwaksena.
So Vishwaksena, what we heard is the...
Vishwaksena is the commander of the...
Lord, Vaikuntha.
Yes, of Vishnu. And so he is also like an expansion of Vishnu.
Because that in that verse, Vishwakshena Katha Suya, so that is
Yes.
directly Supreme Lord only, or?
Is an expansion of Vishnu, can be taken as good as Vishnu. That's one point. And another point we also know from the Brahma Samhita is that Ganpati is getting his powers from Lord Narasimhadev. And so we are worshipping Lord Narasimhadev. So we're worshipping Lord Narasimhadev, then what's the need to worship Ganpati? And the most important point is, our founder Acharya didn't introduce it. That's the most important. We have to follow in the footsteps of the immediate Acharya. And so therefore, for all these reasons, so we don't do worship of Lord Ganpati. Yes, there is one letter of Prabhupada where one devotee was asked, and Prabhupada replied, what? He wrote back saying that you can worship provided you give some $100 million to me. Srila Prabhupada wrote. So he was thinking that the devotee wants to worship Ganpati for some material benefit. So in any case, so because our Acharya has not told us, so we don't do it.
Prabhuji, one or two more items which are like, may not be like, I mean, how to understand them practically, like entering temple, use like wearing red or blue color garments. So
See, the basic principle for all these offenses is what? What is the basic principle? Okay, one is always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And so, what should be the attitude of behavior in the temple?
that which reminds.
That which reminds and which satisfies Krishna.
Satisfies Krishna.
Satisfying Krishna, remembrance of Krishna, so helping oneself remember Krishna and helping others also remember Krishna. So the point here is what? If one wears some very attractive colors, dresses, then where everyone's attention will go?
To that particular person.
That is why.
One more item is there, which is that until one has fully digested his food, he should not enter the temple.
So what's the principle behind that?
The reason which is written in the 18th number is one should not belch before the deity.
That is right. That's the point. See, of course, more specifically altar. But then that other thing is also there, one should not belch, pass air, as far as possible. Some things are involuntary, what to do?
If someone dies in a family, then one should not enter the temple for like 12 days, 15 days.
So that is specifically again for entering the altar. Otherwise, to come to the temple and chant and hear Bhagavatam, I don't think there's any restriction. Somebody told me that.
After, like they told that even our father, mother has died, so we can enter after 3 days in altar and do deity worship because we are now Vaishnava, we don't have to.
Who said this?
Well, devotee, some devotee told, like in our temple only. And some devotee did also after his parents left body. After 3 or 5 days, they started worshipping deities and all.
I don't know if the authorities are allowing, fine. But since it's mentioned here,
even Radheshyam Prabhu, we saw 15 days he was taking rasam from behind Prabhupada, like he did not enter in temple hall also.
well, I don't think so that's required.
Just we saw that.
But at least altar can be avoided. Want to know?
In 7th chapter,
That is 7th, huh?
sorry, not 7th, third chapter. There is material happiness, spiritual happiness, and devotional.
Are you have gone so behind, huh? Third chapter. ठीक है.
So difference clearly समझ में नहीं आया.
Material happiness.
Spiritual happiness, devotional happiness.
Oh, that spiritual happiness is Brahmananda, merging in the impersonal Brahman. That is the spiritual happiness referred to.
Devotional is what we do.
Devotion is from bhakti,
Bhakti.
pure devotional service.
And material, in material we have included Mayavadis and that also.
No, Mayavadi is the impersonalist, na?
That is spiritual happiness.
That is, yes, Brahmananda.
And Prabhuji, the four people who approach, that is mentioned, and here we said the Lord loves Gyanis the most.
Amongst the four.
So that Gyani, this Gyani is same or like difference between Gyani and...
We had a whole discussion on that day.
Difference between Gyani and Jigyasu.
Achha, this is problem because you didn't attend Bhagavad Gita class.
No, Bhagavad Gita.
Because this is Bhagavad Gita verse, no? So Jigyasu is referring to one who is inquisitive for some knowledge, which could be said to be spiritual knowledge also, but it is mundane spiritual knowledge. Like knowledge of some Vedas and Upanishads, or so many aspects of avidya, which could also include knowledge about astrology or Dhanurveda, Ayurveda. So all this comes under knowledge. It's all knowledge, but it's not directly spiritual knowledge. So inquisitive of grammar. So inquisitive for such material subject matters, it's called Jigyasu.
We are considering example of sages of Naimisharanya.
Yes, because there was a mix. There were different types of saintly people over there. Okay. Hare Krishna. So now we're proceeding ahead. Okay, just see. Okay, this everyone knows this famous verse. If one's heart does not change, tears do not flow, and all these symptoms don't manifest, then it should be understood that his heart is as hard as iron, and this is due to his offenses at the lotus feet of the Lord's holy name.
Can I ask a question?
Huh?
Guruji, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Guruji, like when Samesh Prabhu, Sarvasakshi Prabhu asked a question, this in the spiritual happiness, do Mayavadis come into that picture, Prabhuji, because they are offenders of the Lord? Can they be considered in that?
But their goal is also same, na? Merging the impersonal Brahman is their goal also.
Goal is same, Prabhuji, but because the process itself is
Yes, of course, they don't achieve the impersonal Brahman, they don't achieve Brahmananda also, but that is their goal. So as far as Mayavadis are concerned, then Srila Prabhupada explains that most of them, they come down to again perform materialistic activities, so that's for the Mayavadis.
Yes.
But at least their goal is that. Okay?
Yes,
One more question. Here it is mentioned that one should not break silence while worshipping. So while worshipping, like worshipping Prabhupada also, we are not allowed to sing the Guru Puja?
No, the singing Guru Puja is fine, but no other talk. No other useless talk.
Yeah.
So inside the altar also,
you can sing
while
like
worshipping, yes, no useless talk.
To the spiritual master, 29th one.
Yes, so what is bona fide? Bona fide.
And one more thing it is mentioned that one should not offer any foodstuff to the relative who has been seen by a dog. So that is cooked or uncooked also we purchase and a dog is seeing.
So as far as possible, if anything that needs to be offered should not be seen by the lower animals.
But the dogs are in markets also.
At least, after you prepare the bhoga plates, at least after that, nobody should see. It's covered, no?
Yes.
At least after that, nobody should see.
2 points. One should not cry before the DTSL.
If you're in a spiritual ecstasy, it's okay.
Not for me, I just am general.
That's what I'm not, in general only I'm asking.
So,
Yes, material distress, crying due to material distress.
and one should not praise else, other person before the
Correct.
So Bhagavatam class we every day introduce.
Devotee is okay,
Devotees.
but not materialistic people. Okay, fine. What's next? What is this? The unwanted creepers. Okay, I just put this purport from the. So this is about the result of offenses, the result of namaprad. The result of namaprad is all these weeds will grow. If one hears and chants inattentively while committing offenses, the result is weeds grow. And which have essentially been put into the 6 categories: Nishiddhajar, Jiva Himsa, Kotinati, Puja, La, Pratishta. So you can read this later. Of course, these are all very important points for devotees. So that's what Prabhupada is writing here. He states that, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he states that if one hears and chants without trying to give up offenses, one becomes materially attached to sense gratification. That's what happens. So therefore one must sincerely try to give up offenses while chanting. Otherwise, that's what will happen. And then he's mentioning what will happen. What will happen is, one may desire freedom from material bondage like Mayavadis, become attached to yoga siddhis, desire wonderful yogic powers, and all these things. Diplomatic, crooked behavior, associate with women, make a show of devotional service like Prakrita Sargiyas. So all these results could take place if one is hearing and chanting while committing offenses. So this is one of the major obstacles in the practice of devotional service, offenses. So therefore, that is what we should be really very careful about. Process is simple. And now Gaur Purnima is coming, everyone will glorify Mahaprabhu, very merciful, very benevolent. So all that you'll keep hearing for the next 4 days. But the main obstacle, yes, process is simple, but the main obstacle is offenses. That is the main obstacle. Otherwise it is simple. Okay, one point about seva prads and nama prads, which Vishwanath Thakur specifically mentions in the Madhuri Kadambini. So there he says the main difference is seva prads are unintentionally performed and nama prads are intentionally performed. This is the main difference, he says, between the two. So, and the seva prads also, so all these, this list of offenses, all these are seva prads, correct? This list of offenses to the deities, these are all seva prads. But if the seva prads are performed intentionally or due to carelessness, then they will go into the category of nama prads. Or if one, in one of the brahmachari classes, I think so, that skit was performed, I think, no? Of Pujari, Achman. You were there in that skit, no? You explain.
Hare Krishna. So 2 devotees were there. So first devotee, he slept very late by watching different types of videos and everything. And suddenly in the morning, manager called him at 4:15 or like that, no, you have to go and do the Aarti of the Lord. And he just immediately shouted at the manager, know what he's saying, after cutting the phone. And then somehow he took bath, put tilak and went. And without performing Achman, he entered the altar because it was getting late. So when he did that, after that, while worshipping, thought came that, no, I forgot to do the Achman. Then he thought, no, this is not my problem. It's problem with the manager. Why he said so early? So late. So he said, no, it's still with him. Let me go on. But second devotee, when he came, and same thing happened, he thought that, no, I am an offender. So better let me chant extra rounds. I will not even eat breakfast today. Like this. So these differences are there.
Correct. Good. You remember nicely, huh?
You were there now.
So if one is careless in one's practices and intentionally one commits offenses, so then the seva aparad becomes nama aparad. So it is just like the seventh nama aparad, namno baladhyasya papa buddhi. So committing offenses on the strength of the holy name or on the strength of devotional practices. So if one has committed any of the seva aparads, then one should at least be repentant, chant some extra rounds, at least that much one must do. Then it gets nullified. But if one is just negligent and careless and one chalta hai attitude, chalta hai. So chalta hai, nahi chalta hai. So, so much in devotional service is based on attitudes. As Srila Prabhupada wrote that famous statement in the preface to the Nectar of Instruction, advancement of a person in Krishna consciousness depends upon the attitude of the follower. So in devotional service, more than the external activities, the attitude matters a lot. Because that is bhakti. So bhakti refers to the loving attitude with which the service is done. As we explained so many times, Krishna doesn't want the service per se. Krishna has so many people to do services. It's not that Krishna requires that. But what he's looking for? The love. The love is the attitude. Of course, the attitude also manifests in terms of the quality of the service. But then the attitude very much matters. And so, if one is negligent, then offenses will take place. And then the result of that could be one is influenced by material desires. That is what happens. And so therefore, one has to be extremely careful. And it's not only for new devotees or, there's no specific criteria like that this will only happen to this class of devotees. No, anyone, anytime, doesn't matter, however senior, whatever be post position, doesn't matter. The moment one commits offenses, Bhakti Devi is displeased. That is what happens. Bhakti Devi is displeased, mercy is withdrawn, person loses taste. That is what happens. And then everything that is spiritual will appear to be material, mundane. One loses taste. And how long one will continue? Very difficult. Or it is proportionate. To the degree one has committed the offense, the seriousness of the offense, to that degree one loses the taste. So therefore, the important point is that one has to be extremely conscious. Whatever one is doing in devotional service, one needs to be conscious. The Lord is watching. So that consciousness has to be there and one needs to be careful. That is how, while dealing with the Lord, while dealing with the devotees, in all our activities, one needs to be conscious. International Society for Krishna Consciousness, not Krishna work. It is Krishna consciousness. So that's something which is very important, and ultimately it is that consciousness which will give us the next body. Okay? Okay, it is the same purport. So all these are the results of committing offenses while chanting. Big list Srila Prabhupada is giving. So you can read that later. Very important. Go ahead. Okay, so because it has been said that if one doesn't commit offenses, there'll be some ecstatic symptoms. Okay, read.
Sometimes the Mahabhagavata does not manifest such symptoms as tears in the eyes, whereas sometimes a Kanishta Adhikari displays them artificially. This does not mean the Kanishta is more advanced than the Mahabhagavata. The best of real change of heart, the test of real change of heart that takes place when one chants Hare Krishna is that one becomes detached from material enjoyment. Bhakti paresanubhavo virakti ranyatracha.
Right. So it's not again something external. Okay, so the advanced devotees don't make show. So they will always try to hide ecstatic symptoms even if they come. And the Kanishta, he wants popularity, so he makes a big show. So it doesn't mean the Kanishta is more advanced. Of course, we will study that. Rupa Goswami gives 9 reliable symptoms of one on the stage of bhava. But in any case, the real test is how one is able to give up the material sense gratification. Okay, next. Okay, this was. Okay, fine. This verse we have discussed before in our Bhagavad Gita classes also we have discussed. Correct? We discussed this in Bhagavad Gita also. Okay, read this.
The holy name, like the sun, dispels the darkness of illusion. However, sometimes clouds or mist cover the sun from the viewer, so that only a portion of light comes through. In the same way, when ignorance and anarthas predominate, the sun of the holy name becomes covered and only a portion of the full effect of the name is felt. Harinam Chintamani.
Yes, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that the holy name is like the midday sun, just like now. Outside is very bright, isn't it? So the holy name is like that. But if there are clouds or fog, what will happen? One cannot experience the effects of the sun. So similarly, the cloud of anarthas and the mist of ignorance, they block the full effects of the holy name. So the cloud of anarthas is made up of 3 things. What are they? Hridaya dhaurbalyam, asat trishna, and apradhs. These are the 3 constituents of the cloud of anarthas. Asat trishna. Asat trishna means hankering for material things, that which are asat. So 4 things are there under that. It could be trishna for material sense gratification of this world, or it could be hankering for heavenly sense pleasures, or it could be hankering for sayuja mukti, impersonal liberation, or it could be hankering for yoga siddhis. So all this comes under asat trishna. So basically hankering for material things. And then hridaya daurbalyam, weakness of the heart. Weakness of the heart is due to, it could be due to envy, fault finding, deceitful nature, and material attachment. So basically, the heart is spiritually weak. So when the heart is spiritually weak, then it results in all these things: envy, fault finding, deceitful nature, attachment to material things, and aparadhs, offenses. So 4 types of offenses. What are they? Nam aparadh, seva aparadh, Vaishnava aparadh, and Jiva aparadh. So all these are like cloud. So then one cannot experience the full effects of the holy name. And similarly, ignorance, mist of ignorance. So he talks about 4 types of ignorance. One is swatattva vibhrama, swatattva. That means, who am I? Not understanding who am I. That is Swatattva Vibhrama. Then Paratattva Vibhrama. Not understanding who is supreme. That is Paratattva. Then Bhakti Tattva Vibhrama. Not understanding the process of bhakti. And the fourth one is Bhakti Pratikul Vastu Tattva Vibhrama. Bhakti Pratikul Vastu Tattva Vibhrama. So not knowing what is Pratikul for bhakti. So if one does not differentiate between what is Pratikul, Anukul, then one gets confused, then he cannot make good progress. So these are all causes for not experiencing the full effect of the chanting of the holy name. Right. Okay, read this. What is this?
When the serious students
Hey, we read this, no? We read this. Hey, next one.
Next.
We didn't read that? Okay, go ahead.
When the serious student takes shelter of a bona fide guru, by force of his effective spiritual practice, he can remove the obstructions blocking the sun of the holy name. When the clouds and the mist go away, the brilliant sun of the name becomes visible and bestows upon the devotees the treasure of the love of God.
Yes, so this is the solution. The solution is what? Serious student takes shelter of the bona fide guru by the force of his effective spiritual practices. He can remove the obstructions. So that means one's spiritual practices must please the spiritual master. So if one pleases the spiritual master, one gets his mercy, and that spiritual potency is what will help one to remove the obstacles. So one must be serious about one's spiritual practices. We have discussed this point also before, how attracting the grace is very important in our practices of bhakti. So one must be very careful to see that one is attracting grace, and anything which is an obstruction to that, one must carefully keep it aside.
Prabhu, while two questions I have, Prabhu. While chanting, Prabhu, especially we focus to avoid the inattentive. So that will be there, and other offenses, next 10 offenses, that will be avoiding in the daytime or somewhere.
Correct.
Somewhere.
Correct.
Mainly, and
so while chanting, we need to focus on the hearing.
That means
because as it is said, the inattention is the cause of all the other offenses. Because if one is inattentive in one's chanting, one will not have the required spiritual strength to avoid the other offenses during the rest of the day. Because the effect of the chanting takes place when one hears. Pravishta karna randrena. The Lord's holy name, pastimes, everything has to enter. It has to enter through the ears and affect our consciousness. If we don't hear, then it won't affect our consciousness. So during the chanting, the most important thing is to hear. The offenses are of course committed during the rest of the day.
that's why it is inattentiveness is means attentively chanting is the mother of all offenses.
Inattentively chanting.
And one more question, Project. When we please the spiritual master by our practice of a spiritual, then these offenses will be nullified. Something is said here.
Yeah, so then one will get the spiritual strength to avoid the offenses.
But while being serving under the authority, that time we will not come under the spiritual master. But always spiritual authorities expect more and more. If
Parampara, that is parampara.
Parampara. If we
Yes.
do some service, means on 50%, they always expect 60%. If we
Good.
commit 60%, then 70%.
Good.
Like this, it will go on. How then they will be pleased, and how
So
offenses
keep
will
on
be-
trying. Keep on trying. So then there is no place for laziness. So it is good to have a little bit of challenge, little stretch zone, not always in the comfort zone. Comfort zone, then one will go to sleep. So little stretch zone is good. So if your capacity is 50%, if they're giving services worth 60%, that's good. Srila Prabhupada, what challenges he gave to his disciples? That we can't even imagine what Srila Prabhupada expected from his disciples. Hmm? Huh? Yes, Chaitanya Charitamrita within 2 months. If we get that instruction, whether we'll last for 2 months, that's the question. Reading, forget. Of course, if you read the translations, maybe you'll complete. What to do? When? What situation?
if means if authority expect more and more.
Beyond your capacity.
Uh,
Okay, if you're going into the panic zone, then have a discussion.
Sometimes ego get hurts and some words comes out. So,
So try to do everything in Vaishnava way. Have discussion, no problem. Everything is not perfect in this world. We need to tolerate, discuss, make adjustments. This material world. Yes. And then whatever they say, try to do that. And if again there are some difficulties, again there can be discussion. That's how life goes on.
We see the great devotees in our moment only. They have increased their tolerance limit very high just by practicing. So how we can also increase our that limit?
We're discussing holy name, where this tolerance came.
Holiness without tolerant, how we can?
In Krishna consciousness, you can link anything anywhere. The example is Prabhupada gives this example. He says, if one begins to lift a calf, when the small calf, and then as the calf is growing, one's muscles also will grow. Then as the calf becomes bigger, one's ability to lift the bigger calf will also increase. So therefore, one begins to tolerate small things, and then Krishna will give bigger and bigger tests, then the level of tolerance also has to increase. But somewhere one has to begin. So if we begin to tolerate small things, then bigger things also will be able to tolerate later. So you have to increase that tolerance level. You have to keep on increasing. And then one will come to that stage of aslishyava padaratam pinashtumam. That is the epitome of tolerance.
It is said in the Bhagavatam only that if we are continuously hearing and chanting, then this tolerance, whatever the difficulty, we will cross without any small calf ka jo hoofprint.
The ocean will become as small as the water in the hoofprint of a calf.
Yes. So here, then there is no tolerance there.
So while hearing and chanting, that's what we're discussing. So okay, hearing and chanting is very powerful, but what one has to avoid? To have the effect of hearing and chanting, what one has to avoid? One has to avoid the aparadhas. Then the hearing and chanting will have effect. So everything depends on the quality. Yes, hearing and chanting is very powerful because abhinatvam nama namino. So very powerful, but then the problem is this is the obstruction. Okay? So therefore, initially, so somebody may argue, okay, but initially my level of tolerance is low, then there is more possibility of offenses because level of tolerance is low. Then one has to practice that tolerance as austerity. Yes, tapasya. So even though the other devotee has insulted me and I feel like slapping him, I don't have tolerance. But what I have to do? Tolerate. As a tapasya, somehow tolerates. For what? Yes, for higher purpose. And Krishna has spoken. Austerity of the body, austerity of speech, austerity of the mind. So as an austerity one has to practice. Then tolerance will increase. Okay? Okay, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Ah.
Guruji, I have one question. Can I ask?
Okay.
So, Guruji, regarding the tolerance, just now you gave the example of
Now this discussion is going on tolerance now.
small question, Guruji. It's very deep.
Question may be small, but then
So, Guruji, regarding this tolerance, sometimes you said कि कभी-कभी गुस्सा आता है, like we feel that we should slap the devotee, but somehow we tolerate, but internally we hold grudges sometimes. So
correct. And then
how to deal with that?
and then
Guruji?
explosion will happen later.
Correct. Correct. So how to deal with that situation?
Yeah. So therefore, yes, so at least at that point of time we should tolerate and not do something which is pratikul to our devotional service. At least that much we should avoid. Immediate reactions, bursting out, at least that we should avoid. And then when the mind calms down a little bit, one can go and discuss with some friend or some senior devotee. Then you can burst out on that person. So if one just keeps it inside, then it'd be like pressure cooker. So therefore one should share. So something which is disturbing one should share. One should not just keep it within. One should immediately share with someone if something is disturbing. Share with confidential friends who will definitely keep things confidential. Hari?
Correction. Pramad may mean madness, but here the meaning is inattention or carelessness. It is from this offense that all other offenses spring.
Yes.
One may carefully avoid all other namaprads, yet still not experience the ecstasy of the pure name. This is an indication of another type of namaprad known as pramad, which restricts the natural growth of pure devotion.
Yes. So, one may say, oh, I'm not committing any of the 10 namaprads. Of course, that is also difficult. But even if one says, oh, I don't do it, no, but then this may be taking place. Okay? Fine. So now we go to the next. Okay, we'll read one paragraph from this 8th chapter. You read the second last paragraph.
In the Padma Puran, okay?
Yes.
In the Padma Puran, it is stated that even a person whose life is completely sinful will be completely protected by the Lord if he simply surrenders unto him. So it is accepted that one who surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes free from all sinful reaction. And even when a person becomes an offender unto the Supreme Personality of God and himself, he can still be delivered simply by taking shelter of the holy name of the Lord.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. In other words, the chanting of the holy name is beneficial for eradicating all sins. But if one becomes an offender to the holy names of the Lord, then he has no chance of being delivered.
So if one does seva aparad, then one can be forgiven by some repentance, by chanting the holy names. But if one commits nama aparad, then the effect is even more serious. And so therefore, then for nama aparads, then there is specific prayaschitta for each one of them. So just like for, okay, we'll come to that. Okay, so now we are going to the next chapter, chapter 9, further considerations of devotional principles. First one is blasphemy. Please read from Prabhupada's book.
Blasphemy. One should not tolerate blasphemy of the Lord or his devotees. In this connection, in the 10th canto, 74th chapter, verse 40 of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadev Goswami tells Parikshit Maharaj, "My dear king, if a person after hearing blasphemous propaganda against the Lord and his devotees does not go away from the place, he becomes bereft of the effect of all pious activities." In one of Lord Chaitanya's Sikshashtaka verses, it is stated, the devotees should be more tolerant than the tree and more submissive than the grass. He should offer all honor to others, but may not accept any honor for himself. In spite of Lord Chaitanya's being so humble and meek as a devotee, when he was informed about injuries inflicted on the body of Sri Nityananda, he immediately ran to the spot and wanted to kill the offenders, Jagai and Madai. This behavior of Lord Chaitanya's is very significant. It shows that a Vaishnava may be very tolerant and meek, foregoing everything for his personal honor, but when it is a question of the honor of Krishna or his devotees, he would not tolerate any insult. There are three ways of dealing with such insults. If someone is heard blaspheming of words, one should be so expert that he can defeat the opposing party by arguments. If he is unable to defeat the opposing party, then the next step is that he should not just stand there meekly, but should give up his life. The third process is followed if he is unable to execute the above mentioned two processes, and this is that one must leave the place and go away. If a devotee doesn't follow any of the above mentioned three processes, he falls down from his position of devotion.
Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so sadhu ninda. So the first question is, who is sadhu? So first we have to define who's sadhu. So who's sadhu? One who has the Swarup Lakshan. The Swarup Lakshan of the sadhu is Krishna Eka Sharanam. That is the Swarup Lakshan, the primary characteristic of a sadhu. As Srila Prabhupada says many lectures, sadhu does not mean one who has a long beard and wears saffron cloth. But the main thing is one who has surrendered to the Supreme Lord. And so if this Swarup Lakshan is there, then the remaining 25 qualities, which are Tatastha Lakshan, will eventually develop. But anyone who has surrendered to the Lord, is sincerely following the various rules and regulations of devotional services, to be considered sadhu. Next. So if one has the principal qualification of surrender to Krishna, but if he doesn't have all of the secondary qualifications to the full extent, he's still considered a devotee. As one continues chanting, the secondary qualifications eventually fully manifest. So, just on this point, so again, Vishwanath Chakravartin and Madhur Kandamani mentions a few points regarding Vaishnava Prad, which are practically important. So, one thing he says is that Vaishnava Prad, sadhu ninda means Vaishnava Prad, does not differentiate between the level of devotees. Somebody is junior devotee, senior devotee, this devotee, that devotee. There's no differentiation. So Vaishnava is Vaishnava. So therefore the definition of the Vaishnava is, yes, one who has surrendered. So So we usually tend to be careful while dealing with somebody senior, somebody is a sannyasi, GBC, then we tend to be careful. Somebody is a new devotee, chalta hai, kya hai? So it doesn't work that way. Because Vaishnav is Vaishnav. And somebody may apparently be new devotee. We don't know how much devotional services performed in the last life. Correct? We don't know. So therefore, we cannot differentiate like that and say that, oh, this is a new devotee, we can offend, we can do anything. It's okay. No. The Bhakti Devi does not differentiate that way. Because Bhakti Devi doesn't see externals. Bhakti Devi sees Bhakti. So therefore, that is what is most important. So that it doesn't, so we should not think that, oh, these are new devotees, we don't have to be careful. No. Another point is that one cannot be saved from the effects of Vaishnava aparadh by finding some other fault in the Vaishnava. So say for example, that, okay, I've offended one devotee. So somebody asked me, so why you offended? He's a nice devotee. Oh, he may be nice, but he sleeps during chanting. You understand the point? So I cannot take shelter of some other fault in the Vaishnav and use that to justify my offense. No, that doesn't work. Okay, he may have some other fault, but offense is offense. So I cannot take shelter of some other fault in that Vaishnav and justify my committing offense. You're getting this point? So therefore, one should be careful. So therefore, another important point is, even if the secondary qualifications have not developed to the full extent, but if he has that primary qualification, then he has to be considered a Vaishnav and one should be careful dealing with him. So you know the secondary qualifications, right? Secondary qualities. Name some of them. Yes, all the other 25 qualities. You can name some of the other 25?
Like he's peaceful, he's compassionate on others, he's poetic, he's
expert, daksha.
Expert, yeah. Silent.
He
does not eat much.
Whatever, how much was it? So all these are secondary qualifications. So now, somebody may not have some of these secondary qualifications, like say he may be a little hot-tempered, may speak a little harshly, or a little lazy, or whatever. So all these are considered to be secondary qualifications. So sometimes we tend to take the secondary qualifications more seriously than the primary. And then we tend to judge Vaishnavas on the basis of the secondary qualifications. No, but that's not correct. The primary qualification is the surrender. How much one has surrendered, how much one is seriously following rules and regulations, how much one has developed a taste for Shravanam, Kirtanam, these are all the primary qualifications. The others are all secondary. And so therefore, even who is on platform of Nishtha and who is not is also to be based on the primary qualifications, is also to be based on how much one has essentially developed a taste for Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So these are primary qualifications. The secondary qualifications, as he says here, as one continues chanting, the secondary qualifications eventually fully manifest. And so therefore, one should not make secondary qualifications into primary. So this point is very important. Sometimes we tend to take the secondary qualifications more seriously, or the secondary achievements more seriously. And that, of course, is also substantiated by Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Yes, api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak. So if the bhajate mam ananya bhak is there, then even if one has committed an abominable activity, Krishna says, okay, I forgive. Why? Because the primary qualification is there. What is that? Bhajate mam ananya bhak. That is the primary qualification. So if that is there, then even accidentally somebody may commit a mistake, Krishna doesn't take it very seriously. So we also have to follow. That Krishna says it is my instruction. Correct? Sadhur evasa mantavya. Mantavya means it's an instruction. You have to do it. So we have to follow that. And there Acharya is making. Not following Krishna's instruction is offense. So therefore, anyone who is a devotee, seriously following, we should be very careful dealing with them, even though he may not have some of the secondary qualifications.
Praji, as you told, like Bhakti Devi do not distinguish between who is new devotee, who is devotee means devotee. But we see managerially we have to distinguish between who is a senior devotee, who has, and that's naturally we offer more respect to a sannyasi, to a saffron person than a person who is not, maybe not in renounced order. So then how we should see it?
Yes. So, in fact, it is said one should offer respects to any sannyasi.
Yes.
Any sannyasi, even a Mayavadi sannyasi one sees, at least one should offer some respect.
No,
Why we are offering respect to what?
Sannyas.
The sannyas order.
Means I meant to say.
I understand your point. So yes. So in general, as devotees, we offer respects to everyone, to every living entity. Now, Rupa Goswami, you have not finished Nectar of Instruction, right? So Rupa Goswami, in the 5th verse of the Nectar of Instruction, is talking about how we deal with different levels of devotees. Correct? Kanishta, Madhyam, Uttam. So, discrimination in association is allowed. That discrimination while associating is allowed. That is for my own progress in Krishna consciousness. But as far as offense is concerned, there is no justification for offending someone on the basis of anything external. You get the point? Yes. So yes, so we have to have that respectful attitude towards all devotees, avoid offenses towards all devotees. That is something which is for everyone, for all Vaishnavas. Now, how we associate with someone may differ based upon whether they are Kanishta, Madhyam or Uttam. How we reciprocate with them, that may vary. But the general principle of respect and avoiding offenses, that has to be there for everyone.
One more point you told, that if devotee is having this quality, Krishnaika Sharanam, other things should be neglected.
Not neglected, but we have to give some benefit of doubts. But, okay, they will develop. But they're not there now. Just like we give the example that child he has just come from playing, he's muddy, he's taking bath. So while he's taking bath, if you make fun of him, okay, he's muddy, he's taking bath.
So we see that Krishna Saranam is not very grossly visible, but other qualities are very grossly visible.
Yes, so therefore, first of all, at least in our movement, we can take anybody who's at least chanting 16 rounds, following the various rules and regulations sincerely, then we should take him as he surrendered. Correct? Now beyond that, the subtleties of surrender is something which is internal. We cannot judge. But at least we can see the seriousness in practice. At least that much we can see, right? That much we can see. So therefore, whatever it is, so at least somebody who is, following the basic minimum instructions, then we can think that, yes, he is surrendered. And we don't have to go into a more detailed analysis of the level of surrender. No, that's not required. Yeah. So anyone who is Vaishnava, better is be careful. That is the point.
If in continuation with that, suppose if some devotee does some blunder, and either we are in managerial position or we come to know by any means. So now there is one thing which comes in our mind, we should safeguard other devotees so that they should not, and many devotees, they go to him, associate with that devotee who has committed blunder. So now in that case, we have to tell ki this devotee has committed this blunder. So in that way, we are blaspheming that devotee.
So who's telling, who has to tell that?
Authority.
The concerned persons have to do that.
But if the authority is not telling, maybe it becomes a like public event, ISKCON's reputation may go. So many other factors are there being in a society. Because when many times authority does not tell it publicly because the reputation of the society is at stake. So then what should be our stand on it? Should we just keep quiet and let the things...
See, first thing is, and with these points we're going to come ahead in our discussion, but since you asked the question, we'll just say it anyways. So therefore, talking about sadhu ninda, that means basically finding faults in a Vaishnava. So, unnecessarily finding faults, especially with a malicious attitude, that means out of envy, to pull down another Vaishnava, that is definitely an offense. We are finding faults, criticizing, just for pulling him down due to envy. That is definitely an offense. Okay. Now, as you are pointing out, so sometimes somebody who is in a responsible position may have to find faults. Like spiritual master, spiritual authorities, parents, teachers, right? Those are in responsible positions. They need to find faults for what?
For the betterment of...
As a service. As a service to help their dependents. As a service, they have to correct and find faults. But that is not done out of envy, it is simply as a service. So then that is bona fide. That is allowed for them. So therefore, if I don't have that service of helping others, correcting others, if I don't have the service, then why should I do it unnecessarily? Correct? Then I don't have to do it. But okay, I'm seeing somebody, some other devotee doing something wrong, which may be harmful to himself and also harmful to other devotees, then what I need to do? Yes, we need to report. We need to report to the concerned authorities so that they can take the required action. And at the same time, be detached from it. We report and be detached. Not that we have to do a follow-up every one day, finding out whether some action has been taken or not. So we need to report if we see something which we think is really harmful to that devotee or the other devotees. So we need to report. And you're talking about another situation where, okay, some devotee has done something wrong and nobody is talking about it. Okay, if we think that, first of all, we need to clarify with some seniors whether that devotee has actually done something wrong, what's the reason, this, that. So, first of all, the picture, the situation must be very clear. And so therefore, we definitely need to consult some senior devotees regarding exactly what that devotee has done, how harmful that is. And then if they say that, yes, this is not the appropriate thing that has been done, and even though it is not being spoken publicly, if we think that we have some dependents for whom we are responsible, and then we want to safeguard them, protect them, so that they don't associate or they don't do the same mistake, then yes, then to whoever is our dependents, then we may educate them so that they don't do the same mistakes, or we want to protect them from the asats. So everything, again, the important point is the intention. What is the intention with which I'm doing? So if the intention is out of service, to protect, like Srila Prabhupada told his disciples even about his god brothers, right? Because he wanted to protect them from his envious god brothers. So if the intention is that, then it is fine. But if it is done out of envy or something, then we'll have to face the reaction. Okay?
Praji, just one more question on it. So many times some things are spoken public. Like, just you give an example of Prabhupada criticizing his god brothers. So now many times we also repeat Prabhupada saying, this Maharaj was there.
This happened during Prabhupada's time only.
So
and then Prabhupada said, no, I can do it, you cannot. Prabhupada said that. He said, I can do it, you cannot. Why? Because Srila Prabhupada's intention is to protect the disciples. But what adhikar the disciples have to criticize? No, they don't have adhikar because they don't have that service. Prabhupada has that service to protect his disciples. So therefore, he is authorized to do it. But if the disciple, he does not have that same service, then why should he criticize? So the disciple cannot criticize saying that, oh, Prabhupada is criticizing. No. Then what is his adhikar? That has to be seen. So therefore, whatever I am doing, I should know why I am doing. What is the purpose? Okay. So the intention has to be very clear. Why I'm doing. Okay.
And then when we come to know that some devotee has committed some blunder, and we know it's true, for sure it's true. So now our disposition towards that devotee is areto.
Yes, so therefore, again the same principle. We respect everyone, but we discriminate for association. This is the principle. Whoever it may be, Prabhupada says we respect even the ant. Every living entity we respect. So, therefore, if a devotee has committed some mistake, now again the same principle of apichet suduracharo. So, Krishna is saying sudurachar, even something very abominable. So, therefore, we respect everyone. But when it comes to association, we discriminate. Okay?
Guruji, this regarding this, offending any devotee is brings about the same result or the reaction, you can say. So, does it work in every situation? Because, if let us say I am dealing with some devotee, with one of my friends only, and then he says, bro, can you give me a glass of water? I kind of say that, bro, you can take, or something like that. Although it is an offense, but that same thing I cannot do with a very, very senior devotee. So how is it?
See, even with the friend, so his friend, so you're doing that. So that means what is the intention behind?
Yeah, the intention may not be always one of service. I may not be wanting rendering service.
See, when we talk of offense, the intention is very important. So if one has a malicious intent, out of envy, one has wrong intentions basically. One has wrong intentions to pull down the person, to defame the person. So if one has wrong intentions like that, then it does not matter, new devotee, old devotee, does not matter. Now what you're talking is, something very superficial. It's just something joking, just some joking. And that doesn't have effect. Because neither you had wrong intention, nor is he going to take it seriously because of the relationship. Correct. So then when that relationship is there, then it's fine. Therefore, the most important point is the intention. The intention with which something is done. Okay.
Regarding this intention, Rupa Goswami and that.
Okay, this is a common question. So
many places like that.
Yes, so that was definitely unknowing. But then what was the effect?
Sometimes you are not able to remember.
Yes, so did it stop? Did that smaran stop forever?
No, but till the time that again that prasadam and all.
So basically it was just temporary, right? Just for that short time. And so therefore it was not something like you saw that long list of effects we saw in that previous purport. So all that didn't happen. No? So why? Because it was totally done unknowingly. So if an offense is done unknowingly, without wrong intentions, then it falls within the category of seva aprad. Then for seva aprad, by serving the Vaishnavas, by chanting the holy names, then one can overcome.
So our intent is not there to offend that devotee, but that devotee is taking an offense. Then it's a seva aparad.
Yes, so basically my intention is what is important, right?
Yes.
My intention is what is important. So if I did not have any wrong intentions, but there was misunderstanding. The same example, no, Rupa Goswami's. He didn't have intention to offend. He took offense. The Brahmana took offense because he thought he's laughing. Same situation.
In our devotee circle also, sometimes the way we want to do, but the devotee is misunderstanding.
Yeah, so same thing. It's a misunderstanding. So it's unknowingly done. So as long as my intentions are clear, then it's fine. It's fine in the sense it will be counted as seva aprad. And then, so even in that case, because that devotee has felt hurt, so therefore definitely I need to go and beg for forgiveness and serve the devotee and try to please him. So I should definitely try to do that. But I will not experience such serious effects because my intention was not to offend. All right? So the intention matters a lot in devotional service.
As you said, we should offer respect to any sannyasi.
To every living entity.
Yes. Offering obeisances to the sannyas order. And you don't know the other sannyasi, Mayavadi or what sannyasi.
So we see some sannyas, at least in our mind.
No. Now we have offered the obeisances, and the other sannyasi is looking at us, expecting ki we'll go and talk, and or he want to talk something with us. Then what we should do? We don't know about him much detail, so return our head and come back, or
So in fact, we are not talking about actually offering obeisances, pranams. In our mind, at least, we should show respect. That is the point. And there's no question of talking and discussion. There's no question. At the most, you can say Hare Krishna and go.
Once I was in Jagannath Puri, so I offered obeisances. Then he was looking, I should go, and then I intentionally did not show my face. Then
No, we don't have to be so blunt. So we can at least say Hare Krishna, smile and walk away. Good enough. Chicken.
And regarding this, there are some points like when one is hearing the blasphemy of someone.
That is coming now. That is coming. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so having defined who is a sadhu, so if we criticize him, bear bad feelings towards him, or hear him criticize, we're involved in sadhu ninda. Okay, so either we criticize or we have bad feelings, that means wrong feelings, which will eventually come out. So of course, offenses in the mind are not considered in Kali Yuga, but still there one has to be careful, because if it's in the mind, it may eventually come out. Or hear him criticize, then we're involved in sadhu ninda, and blaspheming a devotee incurs the anger of Krishna. So if one hears blasphemy, then three options have been given. First is defeat the opposing party by arguments. Second is, if unable to do that, give up one's life. And third is to leave the place. But as far as the second one is concerned, it is not allowed for Vaishnavas. Why? Yes, so that will be counted as Brahma Hatya. If a Vaishnava commits suicide, it is counted as Brahma Hatya. So therefore that does not apply for devotees. So therefore for devotees only first option and third option. Yes, there is one example for the second one in the fourth canto of the Bhagavad. Yes, Sati is the example. So, because again, as we're discussing today in the Bhagavatam class, Striyo Vaishyas Tata Shudras. Yes, but then still Stri, so therefore that is okay for a Shudra.
Hare Krishna. So if suicide of Vaishnava is considered as Brahmatya, then Chota Haridas also we see that he committed suicide. But Lord appreciated that.
Yes, that was specific purpose. So that was part of Mahaprabhu's Leela. So Mahaprabhu wanted to show to the world that how somebody in the renounced order should be so careful. So because Mahaprabhu wanted to teach that lesson to the world, Chota Haridas simply became an instrument. As far as Chota Haridas is concerned, after he committed suicide, he once again joined the Lord in his eternal pastimes. But that's the lesson which the Lord wanted to teach. And so therefore, the Lord approved it. But we cannot imitate. Go ahead. Okay, this is from the fourth canto purport. Read.
The instruction set forth here in Srimad Bhagavatam is that one should not tolerate at any cost the activities of a person who vilifies or blasphemes an authority. If one is Brahmana, he should not give up his body because by doing so, he would be responsible for killing a Brahmana. Therefore, a Brahmana should leave the place or block his ears so that he will not hear the blasphemy. If one happens to be a Kshatriya, he has the power to punish any man. Therefore, a Kshatriya should at once cut out the tongue of the vilifier and kill him.
So that was what? Who was doing? Parikshit Maharaj to Kali. So he was offending. So he took out his sword immediately to kill him.
But as far as Vaishyas and Shudras are concerned, they should immediately give up their bodies.
Right. So based upon Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, different responses. Okay? Okay, this is from Giraj Maharaj's lecture. Please read.
First, one must recognize one is being blasphemous. Raghunath Das Goswami gives an example of how one mistakes something bad for something good in discussing someone who is bathing in ass urine and thinking that he is cleaning himself. Sometimes we discuss the faults of Vaishnava and we are thinking that actually this is very good discussion and very purifying to analyze these faults for the sake of clarifying issues to push on the movement. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish the devotional creeper from the weeds. Kutinati is the weed for duplicitous behavior and or fault finding. Raghunath Das Goswami compares it to the bathing in ass urine. Duplicitous behavior means that we are making a show of devotional service with the main purpose of not pleasing Krishna, but to get some honor or praise, so people will respect us or think we are very pure. We find fault with others to make our position more by making others' position less.
So this is duplicitous behavior. So just like, again, the example for this is Daksha, Prajapati Daksha. So Prajapati Daksha, when in the assembly, he began to speak the faults of Lord Shiva, he first of all said, see, I'm just clarifying things. For everyone's benefit, I'm simply clarifying. The root cause was envy. But he didn't want to show that he's envious. So he's simply trying to show that I'm doing a service, just informing you. So that is duplicitous behavior. Internally one has one other motive, but externally one doesn't show it. That is duplicitous behavior. So similarly, one may talk about the faults of a Vaishnava, saying that it is important discussion for the sake of managing the movement or for the sake of protecting others or whatever. So one could justify it even though one's actual intentions may be wrong. Actual intentions may be to pull down the devotee. So because what one thinks that if I show faults in other Vaishnavas, then my position automatically becomes higher. That is what one thinks. It doesn't happen that way, but that is what one thinks. And so, of course, envy is deep-rooted in practically every jiva who has come to the material world. Envy is very deep-rooted because that's the cause for material existence. So envy is very deep-rooted. And so what he's saying is one should be very careful. So therefore, if one is finding faults with somebody else, one should immediately ask oneself the question, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Is there some good purpose? Will someone benefit from this discussion? One should ask oneself this question. Frankly speaking, I'm also not free. I'm trying to learn. With the blessings of the Vaishnavas, it's possible because these things are very deep-rooted. So when we find faults with someone, we should immediately ask ourselves this question. Why am I speaking these faults? Will someone benefit from this discussion? So if there's no benefit from such a discussion, it's useless. And that's what Srila Prabhupada warned about gossip. So that is gossip. Gossip means useless talk about faults of others. And Shrutakirti Prabhu tells this quite a few times. He says, Srila Prabhupada very clearly said, this gossip will destroy our movement. This gossip will destroy our movement. And therefore, when Srila Prabhupada came to Mayapur, that time there was only the Lotus building. Prabhupada was staying there, all the devotees also were staying in that same building. And this is 74, 75 when the Mayapur festival just started. And so it was, that time only the Lotus building was there and surrounding was all fields. So obviously it was a very quiet place. And so Srila Prabhupada could practically hear everything what other devotees are speaking in the building. And so devotees have come from different parts of the world, they're meeting and they're talking so many things. And then along with that, then this tendency is also there to talk about whatever may be the reason, talk about, okay, this devotee did this, this devotee did that. And Srila Prabhupada was hearing. And Srila Prabhupada calls Shrutakirti Prabhu and tells him, go and tell them to keep quiet. So Shrutakirti Prabhu says, all these sannyasis, GBCs, they're talking just in the room beside Srila Prabhupada. But still Srila Prabhupada tells him, go and tell them. Go and tell them. Keep quiet. If you have time, chant the holy names, read something. Don't talk gossip. So these tendencies are very strong in all of us. So we should be careful. So if we don't have any good business talking about other devotees' faults, then better abstain from such discussion. If there's nothing valuable to talk, better to keep quiet rather than pollute the atmosphere with nonsensical talk. So therefore, better is talk only when there's something useful. Otherwise, the tendency is, if you talk something, the tendency is to talk about some faults. This is happening here, this is happening. Some useless things. So we should know what is the usefulness of such a talk we should. But the tendency is to always justify. The tendency is to justify. So that is what he's saying. And that Raghunath Das Goswami is giving the example of bathing in ass's urine, thinking that one is getting purified. But who gets purified by bathing in ass's urine? So similarly, one may justify saying that, all this discussion about devotees' faults is very purifying, it is essential for the movement and all this. So one may justify it like that. So that is kutinati. So if there is no use, then better don't speak. Simply waste of time.
Even in scriptures we see Bhagavatam, Chaitanya, there is a discussion about some devotees committed some faults.
Yes. So that is only for the purpose of
learning,
instructing others. Yes, Shukdev Goswami is finding faults, Srila Prabhupada is finding faults, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is finding, all the acharyas are finding faults. But what is their purpose? Their purpose is to instruct all of us so that we don't do the same nonsense. That is the purpose. All right.
Sometimes it...
Ho gaya, wo ho gaya. So now, first of all, prevention is better than cure. So first of all, one should try to avoid sadhu ninda. But what to do due to our own material conditionings or whatever? If it happens, then solution is, now read.
To become free from sadhu ninda, one should beg forgiveness from the devotee in such a way that he will be pleased to forgive us by approaching him with humility, glorifying him and serving him. Avoid the association of non-devotee and materialistic devotee.
Because we discussed that point. That is the root cause. The root cause is asatsang. So when there's asatsang, what is the result? What happens when there's asatsang? Yes, basically one loses respect for devotees. One loses respect for devotees and there's a tendency for offenses. That's the root cause. So if it happens, then there are 3 steps. Vishwanath Thakur gives 3 steps. The first step is repentance. The first step is repentance. So one should repent for what one has done. Because as Srila Prabhupada writes in 1st Canto, 19th chapter, text 1, that all sinful reactions are burnt up in the fire of repentance. So repentance, of course, also means some rectificatory measures. So one thing is internal repentance, one feels guilty, one feels bad. That is one thing. But then it should not end with simply the internal repentance. Something positive also has to be done. Prayaschita. Or pashatap. Repentance is called pashatap, right? So there is some tap. Tap means? Yes, some purification. Some purification has to take place. Tapasya. Tap. Tapasya also tap, right? So there is some purification. So just like gold is purified by heat. So similarly, purification takes place by the heat of repentance. So there has to be some tapasya. And the tapasya is the second step. The second step is this. Approach the Vaishnav, beg for forgiveness, glorify him, serve him. So this is the second step. This is the rectification. This is the tapasya one has to go through. And the third step is chanting the holy names. But then he very clearly mentions that the third step is not a substitute for the first two. Because third is easier, right? Compared to the first two. Because that's difficult, going to the devotee, asking for forgiveness. Okay, I'll chant the holy names. No, not allowed, sir. The third step is not a substitute for the first two. It's only additional. Clear? Next. Okay, this is the next. So, and of course, within the scriptures, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there are so many examples of offenses and what are the results. Okay, so that's a whole different topic. Okay, fine, we're proceeding ahead. So the next anga of bhakti that's mentioned is tilak and tulsi beads. Now, all these are very small, and I'm sure most of us know these from our previous reading and hearing also. So, tilak and tulsi beads. What is the importance of wearing tilak and tulsi beads?
No, Yamadutas do not touch.
Yes, Yamadutas will definitely not touch. And?
Body also purify.
Body becomes purified. Why?
Chanting of.
If you put tulsi beads, how one is purified?
Touch of.
Yes, touch of tulsi. So yes, so basically these are the two reasons. So as there's a quote from the Padma Puran which says that if one marks the body with persons who put on tulsi beads, mark 12 places, then the result will be their presence makes the world purified, and anywhere they remain, they make that place as good as Vaikuntha. And then they're never approached by Yamadutas. That is from the Skanda Puran. So Ajamal's example. Okay. Next is accepting flower garlands which have been offered to the deities. So there's a quote from the 11th canto of the Bhagavatam. So see, all these things are very easy to understand. So basically this is also what? This is also prasad. The garlands which are offered to the deities.
Here, Prabhupada writes, if somebody is wearing Gopi Chandan and who puts on garlands, which are offered to Krishna, there is no question of being conquered by the spell of material energy.
Where is it? The purport of this verse is for any person who simply follows. So what's your question?
Even devotees, they get into the spell of material energy, even though they wear tilak and like flowers, kantimala.
So why is it so? Yes, one thing is the faith. So yes, how much one is accepting as Krishna Prasad? Eating prasad also. How much faith we have, this is prasad, how much in that consciousness we are. That makes the whole difference. That makes the whole difference. Otherwise, each of these angas is very potent. So now later on, anyway, this comes in the 13th chapter. Rupa Goswami explains that yes, the effects of some of these angas of bhakti may appear to be exaggeration. Atishayukti. It may appear to be exaggeration, as you'll see in some of the other angas of bhakti also. If one simply takes Chanamrit, one will go back to the spiritual worlds and things like that. So it appears to be exaggeration. So he nicely explains why these effects of these angas have been mentioned. So he says 2 points basically. One thing he says is that these effects are not exaggerations because in some cases they're actually true. So there are examples for someone who has practiced this and the effects have actually been observed. They may be rare, but there are examples. So therefore it is not an exaggeration. And the second point he says is, even if you think it is an exaggeration, but the purpose is to attract people to devotional service. And so therefore, that is the intention behind these statements. And therefore, both are to be taken into consideration. One thing is it is not an exaggeration because in some cases it is actually true, it has happened. And the second is to attract people to devotional service.
If it is if we assume that this is not an exaggeration, that's why I'm using this word assume.
No, it is not an exaggeration.
Okay. So then why it is not happening to everyone then?
So that's the point, why it's not happening, because we don't have that much faith.
And we see there are so many examples as you told.
Not many, it's very rare.
In NOD only this example comes of a rat. During Kartik, he gets burned
That
up.
doesn't come in Nectar of Devotion, that comes in some other Puranas.
But I think quotation is there.
No, it's not here.
So, we never saw rat doing.
So that basically, these are all exceptions. These are all exceptions, and exceptions don't become the rule. And so so the rat did a service, correct? The rat did the service. So in the same context, there's also example of Prahlad. How Prahlad became Prahlad? Because in the previous life, fasted and did some service on Narsingh Chaturdashi unknowingly. So basically it is Ajnat Sukruti. So now, Ajnat Sukruti, yes, it's definitely valid. We also spoke about Ajnat Sukruti. So if unknowingly one does some devotional activity, then one gets Ajnat Sukruti, and eventually Ajnat Sukruti will mature and one can get the perfection of devotional service. So, but in these cases they got instant effect, right? Of course, even in the case of Prahlad, it's not that he got the benefit, but then the actual benefit was in the next life. But I think so the rat got immediate effect, right?
Yes. But then
So if it's true that the rat got some immediate benefit, he immediately went back to the spiritual world, then these have to be taken as exceptions.
But we discussed in the beginning that it's a science, and the name of the book, it is complete science.
Correct.
So science means it should be valid everywhere, and then why there are exceptions to this rule?
Yes, so therefore, as far as the rat is concerned, why the rat immediately went to Vaikuntha, I don't know. So anyway, that example of the rat comes in some Purana. I don't know the detailed story of that. So we don't know what the rat was in the previous life and all that. We don't know all those details, correct? So leave the rat aside. But
it is also explained that sometimes Krishna gives pre-sample.
Okay, whatever. So anyway, those are not, you cannot call them as Shastric statements, right? So therefore, but this is what Rupa Goswami says. This is what Rupa Goswami says about these statements which are mentioned over here. So they're not exaggerations on one hand, because it is possible for one to experience, but then it's exceptional because the qualification is exceptional. To experience such effects immediately, then one also requires a very high level of qualification. So therefore they're exceptional. Therefore they're not exaggerations. But even if one thinks them to be exaggerations, even if that means it's not a reality, they're not exaggerations, but even if one thinks them to be exaggerations, then one should accept the statements as encouraging one to take to devotional service. That's how Rupa Goswami explains. All right?
Prabhupada in many letter he has written, like, I will read small sentence. Follow the regulative principles, chant at least 16 rounds of beats daily, read our literatures, go for street sankirtan, etc. In this way, keep yourself always engaged 24 hours in Krishna business. You will very soon become perfect in this life, and at the end, reach the supreme destination. So simple, this simple instruction, sometime like chant Hare Krishna and follow 4x, will go back to what it. Somebody will say, like, not possible.
Just now we discussed, no? Process is very simple. What is the main obstacle? We discussed, no?
But chant 16 rounds and follow 4x. Somebody is till the end, he is doing.
No, but then everything has to be taken in the complete picture, no? Yes, chant holy names, but then there is something coming along with that.
That we don't have the control, because
that's whose problem?
We will do what our spiritual master told, chant 16 rounds.
Yes,
that we can try.
But then every day morning we are reciting the 10 offenses. Who has given that?
Because all that are previous from our.
We cannot
have control.
We cannot justify, na? We cannot justify all these things. Ultimately, it's my problem. The process is, I have to avoid 10 offenses. That is the process. Now, why am I unable to avoid, and this problem, that problem, it is all my problem. So, one has to do the needful. That's the point.
Somebody is able to continue till the end, say, chanting 16 rounds and follow.
Chanting 16 rounds without offenses. How many purports Prabhupada, as soon as he puts chanting 16 rounds, without offenses, offenselessly. It goes along with that. Now you say in that letter it is not there. You
Many letter is not there.
You read the purport now. Why you're taking that one letter only? So see, it's not for that one specific person also.
Actually, Maharaj has said.
There are some things which go without saying. Even if it is not said, it is to be understood. Because that is what Shastra says. That is what Shastra says. And how many places we read it? Offenselessly. There is no alternative to that.
So Nama Aprad stays, can we continue whole life like Nama Aprad?
Why one life? One can continue for lifetimes.
Somebody is doing Aprad, but still he can continue.
It's possible. It depends. It depends on the severity of the offense. Yes. So if one is doing small aparadhs, so one will not have such a major effect that one will be sent out of devotional service. So, but the progress will become slow. Progress will become slow. And gradually.
In this Prabhupada, mercy also is one factor, because.
Are Baba, why are you discussing this so much? There is no justification for doing the offenses. We have to sincerely try to avoid. So this is what, we have heard this so many places, so many devotees, we have heard these things. Everyone tries to find justification. So then as you were coming to that point, Mahaprabhu is merciful, Prabhupada is merciful, catch the dhoti, go through back door. So this is how devotees want to justify everything that they're doing and not become serious. Is the attitude correct? No. So I'm not talking about you, I'm making a general point. But the tendency is there to justify or find shortcuts. How to find shortcuts? Already Mahaprabhu has given such a big shortcut. On top of that, Prabhupada has given even bigger shortcut. And now we want to find even shortcut within that. There is one quote of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu, when he comes to Kulia after sannyas, he is forgiving all the offenders. Then finally Mahaprabhu says that, of course, first he says, anyone who says that he wants to serve me, but he does not serve my devotees, he offends the devotees, then he is what's the exact? Placing hot burning coals, something like that. And then Mahaprabhu says emphatically, you do only two things, chant the holy names and don't offend Vaishnavas, then I will personally deliver you. So the chanting of the holy names always goes with that terms and conditions applied. Whether it is said or not, it is understood. ठीक है. Okay. Now the next one is dancing before the deity. So you can see all these are angas of bhakti, and Rupa Goswami is given Shastri quotes for each and every one of them to show that none of them is simply sentimental. None of them is simply sentimental. So dancing before the deity, even clapping the hands before the deity is not something sentimental. People do it just sentimentally. But then Rupa Goswami is giving Shastri quotes for them to show that whether we like it or not, we have to do it. Sentimental means what? If I like it, I'll do it. If I don't like, I won't do it. Therefore, he is giving Shastric reference. That means whether you like it or not, you still do it. Because that is conducive for bhakti. So, for dancing before the deity, he's quoting from the Dwarka Mahatmya. The importance of dancing before the deity is stated by Lord Krishna as follows. From the body of any person who claps and dances before the deity, showing manifestations of ecstasy, all the birds of sinful activities fly away, fly upward. Just as by clapping the hands one can cause many birds to fly away, similarly the birds of all sinful activities which are sitting on the body can be made to fly away simply by dancing and clapping before the deity of Krishna. Right. So, it's an anga of bhakti, Rupa Goswami is doing. So, therefore, we should do it. And that's the result. And of course, we saw Srila Prabhupada in his old age also was doing it. Of course, Srila Prabhupada was experiencing great ecstasy. Bowing down in honor of the deity, standing up to receive the Lord's, standing up to receive the Lord. So as soon as the Lord comes, one should immediately stand up. Following the deity. Even if born of a lowly person, a person who follows the Rath Yatra car, or when the deities pass in front or from behind, will surely be elevated to the position of achieving equal opulences with Vishnu. So see, this is an anga of bhakti, following the deity. So it also applies to Prabhupada's deity, isn't it? So sometimes we find, Srila Prabhupada is going, some devotees are just standing and talking. I don't know how important is the talk. But this is an anga of bhakti. So if one is standing there, so I don't think so it would be very appropriate to just stand and talk. If the deity is going, one needs to follow. Therefore we see, you have seen, no? So many Prabhupada disciples. If they're there in the temple hall, they will follow. We have seen. Nobody stands there. You have seen how many sannyasis have come? You have seen all of them? You have seen anyone standing there when Prabhupada is going? No. They will always follow. This is anga of bhakti. We have to learn these things. Now that we just stand and talk, see, if we are doing our own things, that means what? That means I am more important than the deity. First of all, in the temple hall, one should not talk materialistic things. Simply chit-chatting in front of the deities is also considered a seva aparadha. One should not simply talk something. Unless it is really very important and relevant, one should not talk. See, this is simple logic. Just like if your spiritual master, your Diksha Guru has come, your Diksha Guru is in front of you. If your Diksha Guru is in front of you, will you sit and talk some nonsense with your friend in front of him? Will you do it? No. Why? Yes, because of respect. Respect. So now, as far as deity is concerned, so it just shows our realization. We say deity is Krishna, or the deity is the person. What to speak of deity? Of course, Prabhupada says even the photos are non-different. There's one lecture where Prabhupada, he's gone to some temple where there are only photos of the deities. And Srila Prabhupada is saying, don't think that these are only photos. These are non-different from the Lord. You will realize it to the degree you are purified. So consciousness depends on purification. More one is purified, the consciousness is raised. And so therefore, these are important angas of bhakti. So in the temple hall, there should be no materialistic talk, unnecessary talk. And if there is any procession, one should definitely follow, take part. These are all important aspects. This is how we make progress. So if one thinks, oh, small things, oh, okay. So then that will affect our own progress. Nobody else is the loser. Nobody else is the loser. If one has important service, that's another thing.
Like when we saw the Prabhupada procession going on, some devotee offer flowers and take darshan to the deities. So is this appropriate, or they should also follow the...
See, everything has its own time, na? Everything has its own time.
So ideally, everybody should follow the...
I don't know how many of you were there, but when Sri Krishna Chaitanya Maharaj came, and then he also started following, and he saw some devotees standing, he said, come. I don't know how many of you were there. Whether they came or no, I didn't notice. But he said, come. So see, these sannyasis are following, they are fools. They can do something better, na? Why they follow? Isn't that the example we have to follow? They are showing by their own example. Even senior devotees and senior sannyasis who even have some little difficulty in walking, they still come. Trivikram Maharaj, of course, he's old. He also. Everyone practically. So, why? Because these are all angas of bhakti. So then if we don't take them seriously, then we won't make progress. So that is why it is said in activities of Mahatma. We have studied in Bhagavad Gita. What are the activities? Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dhridavrata. And the purport Prabhupada writes, the Mahatma follows all the rules and regulations strictly. Therefore, he is Mahatma. Because he follows, that's why he is Mahatma. Mahatma is not one who thinks that, oh, now I become senior, now I don't have to follow. Then he is not Mahatma. No. So if we want to become Mahatma also, we need to follow. And then when one actually becomes Mahatma, he follows. So at least now we have to do it as an austerity. When one actually becomes Mahatma, it becomes natural. Because he does it out of love. But if you want to come to that platform, then at least we have to do it as austerity. That's why Rupa Goswami is giving all these things. It's not for fun here, just to fill the book he's giving. That's why Srila Prabhupada says, quoting Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, I think so, right on in the first class we had seen, I think, one of the quotes. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the time of initiation gave that instruction to our Srila Prabhupada to read Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Why? Because it is the law book. That Srila Prabhupada said, it's the law book. So, if we follow the laws, we make progress. Yes, Shuknam?
Find in case of Mahaprabhu also, when he went to South India and all those places, he went to some places where Shiva temple were there and all this. But even in our temple, we find sometimes there are, it's not, is it correct or not, I am not sure completely. Devotees, they think that we are devotees of Krishna, so they don't go and personally take Balaji's darshan. Sometimes they willingly do that, and sometimes we are seeing that they just neglectfully or not so careful about taking darshan every day of Balaji. So in this case, like, how is that means like their bhav or what?
Of course, at least if we are passing by, we definitely need to respect. That's what is the anga of bhakti that is being stated, as we will see. So one needs to definitely respect the demigods. One definitely needs to respect the demigods. As far as Balaji is concerned, of course, Balaji is non-different from Krishna. So, anyway, that. So yes, we can. Up to us, ultimately. Okay, fine. So, going to the temple of Vishnu or to place of pilgrimage. So, what is the benefit? He's quoting from Hari Bhakti Sudodai. Persons who are impelled by pure devotional service and Krishna consciousness and who therefore go to see the deities of Vishnu in the temple will surely get relief from entering again into the prison house of a mother's womb. And then he says, in order to make an escape from this material condition, one is advised to visit a temple of Vishnu with devotional consciousness. Then one can very easily get out of the miserable condition of material. Then circumambulating the temple of Vishnu. So, this of course specifically referring to Chaturmasya. But of course, it's also applicable to other times. It is stated in the Skanda Purana that during this period, that means Chaturmasya, if someone circumambulates the temple of Vishnu at least 4 times, it is understood that he has travelled all over the universe. By such circumambulation, one is understood to have seen all the holy places where the Ganges water is flowing, and by following the regulative principles of Chaturmasya, one can very quickly be raised to the platform of devotional service. But again, so we have to see what is conducive for a devotional service, what is not conducive. So one cannot blindly follow, in the sense that, so one cannot take this one statement and say that, okay, so now from now onwards we'll follow all the aspects of the rules of Chaturmasya. So we have to see what our Acharya has said. Okay, so please remember this point. The immediate Acharya cannot be jumped over. So one cannot go to some previous Acharya and say that, oh, the previous Acharya has said something, so I will follow that. No. The rule is, I have to see what the immediate Acharya has said. That is what needs to be followed. So just like Chaturmasya, one of the rule may be one should not shave. So some devotees, 2 sannyasis were actually doing this Chaturmasya in Hyderabad. When Srila Prabhupada went for the temple opening in 1976. So it was Janmashtami time. temple opening. So that is Chaturmasya time. So these two sannyasis had not shaven. And so Srila Prabhupada, when he went there and he saw these two sannyasis, Srila Prabhupada called them just the day before the temple opening. And he only said this much. He said, see, tomorrow is temple opening, so many guests will come, and if you are not clean, what will they say? That's all he said. They got the message. They immediately shaved up. So yes, so one has to take all these things into consideration. So in our movement, we don't follow all these things. Srila Prabhupada has just given us one item for every month, which should be avoided, that's it. And of course, if someone can do something more, that's up to them. But that should not interfere with the service. Just like there was one pujari also in one temple who was growing his beard during Chaturmasya, and he was pujari on the altar. So everyone was seeing him with his long beard. So the GBC immediately said, no, not allowed. You want to be pujari, shave. So we have to see. So one cannot justify and say, oh, it is there in Shastra, it is there here, it is there. Yes, it is Shastra, but you have to follow your spiritual master.
This I always had this doubt regarding this, the standard of in DT worship. Like the clean shave is the standard explained in which scriptures, and then like, because many of the traditional temples, they have pujaris with beard and everything. So like, what is the exact reference in the script? Of course, like in ISKCON, we have to follow what is given by our acharyas. That is very clear. But what is the standard reference for those?
See, the basic principle is cleanliness. Right? Cleanliness is the principle.
Yes.
You'll find in these offenses also. So many offenses are related to cleanliness. So cleanliness is the principle. So then if you have beard and mustache, then cleanliness is compromised. Unless those specific acharyas have given that instruction that yes, you can, then up to them. But then, having long hair is never conducive for cleanliness, correct? So that's the principle. All right. Okay. Then Archana. Archana means worship of the deity in the temple. Here there's a reference to Sudama's pastime. How Sudama came there and then Sri Krishna wanted some food stuff. Immediately took many palatable dishes and went to offer them to Sri Krishna. Okay. So we know Archana. Then rendering service to the Lord. So this is rendering other types of services. So as is explained here in the Vishnu Rahasya, any person who can arrange for service to the Lord in the same way that king is given service by his attendants is usually elevated to the abode of Krishna after. So this is called as Paricharyaya. This is Archana. So Archana is where one is actually worshipping the deities with purification, Bhuta Shuddhi and all those. So that is called as Archana. Now this is Paricharyaya, rendering service to the Lord. So these services don't require all those purification and all that. So basically, like one aspect of it is, as being mentioned here, decorating the deity very opulently, like the king, as is being mentioned here. So this is coming under this rendering service. So therefore, he says the conclusion is that those who are rich men in society should construct beautiful temples arranged for worship of Vishnu. Okay? And there are some quotes for that you can read. Then singing. Singing is glorifying, singing about the Lord's, that singing. Not any other singing. It is said that Brahmana who is constantly engaged in singing the glories of the Lord is surely elevated to the same planet as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna appreciates the singing even more than the prayers offered by Lord Shiva. So again, important point is bona fide singing. Not any other song. So as far as we are concerned, They should only be songs given by, yes, our Vaishnava acharyas, our acharyas. Srila Prabhupada was very specific about that. Songs of Narottam Das Thakur, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so only our Vaishnava acharyas. And yes.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, even within Vaishnavacharyas, there are many songs actually. So can we like, is it okay to sing all the songs which are written, or only those which are prescribed to us?
Best is to sing what our acharyas usually sing. So best is to sing those.
Prabhuji.
Is that clear?
Yes.
So there may be some songs which are maybe a little esoteric or beyond our level, our adhikar. So then we should not be singing those. So best is to see what our acharyas have usually sung and to stick to that.
Prabhuji, that we sing different tunes in the kirtans, Prabhuji. Some of the tunes might be used in the movies, Bollywood movies and all, Prabhuji. But ultimately these tunes and music comes from Lord.
So? What's the question?
So whether we sing in different tunes or not?
As long as they're bona fide, it's okay. If there are any doubts, consult some senior devotees.
Like our present acharyas who are there in planet, and they have sung some songs which some outside person has sung, but they have sung. So should we consider them bona fide or not? Like some Maharajas, in Hindi they have sung something like that.
See, the principle is stick to what the acharyas have given. For as far as devotees in ISKCON are concerned, the standard is the standard that Srila Prabhupada set. That has to be the standard. So a little bit here and there is fine, but it should not go too far away. So, and it's not that we are just saying it, but then Srila Prabhupada expected it. So, Srila Prabhupada expected devotees to follow his style, his standard. Srila Prabhupada expected that. And so the more we stick to that, the more we'll please him. So I think so regarding the Hare Krishna Mahamantra tune that Srila Prabhupada sings. I'm not remembering the exact pastime, but when somebody asked about him to the effect that from where did you get this tune or something like that, somebody asked, Srila Prabhupada just said, this is my style. So, but then, okay, that's his style, but then that's what he introduced and that's what he expected. So then again, morning melody, morning tune, it may not be something which may be followed even in other Gaudiya Vaishnava temples or other Vaishnavas. So in fact, I forget who was telling this. Even the Gurvashtakam by Srila Vishwanath Thakur is not followed everywhere. It's not followed in the Gaudiya Math. It's not followed. They sing something else. Somebody, so something else they sing. Because as we discussed, that's a detail. The anga is what? Singing. The principle is singing. Now which song is a detail? But that's what we discussed yesterday. But even though some things are details, for us those details have become principles. Because Srila Prabhupada said. Because it's instruction from the Guru. So when it's instruction from the Guru, then it becomes principle. Following the instructions of the Guru becomes a principle. So therefore then, what song is to be sung, what tune is to be sung, everything is a principle. So therefore then again, for Sandhyati also, what is to be sung, what tune. So in fact, somebody was telling, some Prabhupada disciple was telling, so Srila Prabhupada had a slightly different style of singing the Sandhyarti also. But then now devotees have introduced some other styles and it's going on. But it seems originally Srila Prabhupada had some other style of singing that. So in any case, so the important point is that we should try to stick to what will please Srila Prabhupada. Stick to that as much as possible. So many things have been introduced later on, like I was telling about the morning tunes also. So Shuddhagiti Prabhu says that so one year they went to Bengal, they went to Mayapur, and so for many years they were singing only one tune, Mangalarti. But then one year, maybe 74, 75, they went to Mayapur and they heard some other tune for the first time. Why? Devotees learn from other places, right? That's from where everything comes in. So devotees go to other temples like Gaudiya Mats and this and that, and there's some other tune is going on. They pick it up and bring it within ISKCON. That's what happens. So many things happen like that. They see something outside and devotees bring it in. So some things are, doesn't make a big difference. Doesn't make a big difference. But to the degree we follow, then to the degree we get the benefit. So, ठीक है? Huh?
Maharaj,
don't take names.
He specifically clarified that we should sing songs of our Vaishnava Acharyas only. Bhakti in one Brahmachari class in Pune itself.
Okay. No comments. So, under Sankirtan, what's the definition of Sankirtan? When a person loudly chants the glories of the Lord's activities, qualities, form, etc., his chanting is called Sankirtan. Sankirtan also refers to the congregational chanting of the Holy. So, Sankirtan is not just Nam Sankirtan. It could be Guna, Rupa, Leela, everything is called Sankirtan. When it's loudly chanted, all that is called Sankirtan. And then he's giving a few references for the effects. A sinful man can perform many sinful activities, but is unable to perform so many that they cannot be wiped out by one single uttering of Krishna. Just once Krishna, and one cannot even commit as many sinful activities as can be eradicated. Just see the power. Huh? Correct. But that is what? Shuddhanam, Shuddhanam. Here Prabhupada is writing there are many songs about the Lord's activities. For example, there's Brahma Samhita, Nada Pancharatra, and Srimad Bhagavatam. If these songs are heard by any person, he can easily get out of the clutches of material contamination. Okay, next is Japa. Japa is chanting a mantra or hymn softly and slowly is called Japa. Chanting the same mantra loudly is called Kirtan. Okay, so one should not make Japa Kirtan. Japa should not be made into Kirtan. So when Japa is practiced, it is for the personal benefit of the chanter, but when Kirtan is performed, it is for the benefit of all others who may hear. See, Prabhupada very clearly says, uttering the Mahamantra very softly only for one's own hearing is called Japa. You see that? That's the definition of Japa. See now, you read? Very softly, only for one's own hearing. That is called Japa. So what? All the time you want to keep him, you want to wake him up. Then how will he hear his chanting? If we are bombarding our chanting with so much of compassion to keep him awake, how the poor fellow will hear his own chanting? Okay, next one, submission. So Rupa Goswami says by making entreaties, vijnapti. So basically this is prayers to the Lord with words, the bolt on the door of liberation is released. Okay, read the first paragraph under this submission in the Skanda Puran.
In this Skanda Puran, there is a statement about submission unto the lotus feet of the Lord. It is said there that those who are sober devotee can offer their submission to Krishna in the following three ways. Samprarthanatmika,
Samprarthanatmika.
very willingly offering prayers. Dainyodhika, humbly submitting oneself. Lalasamayi, desiring some perfectional stage. This desiring some perfectional stage in a spiritual life is not sense gratification. When one realizes something of his constitutional relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he understands his original position and wants to be reinstated in this position, either as a friend, servant, parent, or conjugal love of Krishna. That is called Lalasamayi, or very eagerly desiring to go to one's natural position. This Lalasamayi stage of submission comes in the stage of perfect liberation, which is technically called Sarupya Siddhi. Swarup Siddhi. When the living entity understands by perfect spiritual advancement and revelation his original relationship with the Lord.
Okay? So Lalsamai prayers are only at the stage of bhava. That Rupa Goswami says. We'll just see that. So when the Swarup Siddhi is understood, how the Swarup Siddhi is understood? Not artificially, not by imagination. I become gopi, gopa, peacock. No, not like that. Therefore, Prabhupada is writing very clearly, when the living entity understands by perfect spiritual advancement and revelation. And this is only at the stage of bhava. All right, listen, asakti. So these Lalsamai prayers, where one is desiring some perfectional stage or some perfect service, that is only at the stage of bhava. So we cannot imitate this. Okay, example of Samprathanatmika is the next paragraph. That is a prayer. So these are basically prayers. So the example of Samprathanatmika is the next paragraph. My Lord, I know that young girls have natural affection for young boys have natural affection for young girls. I am praying at your lotus feet that my mind may become attracted unto you in the same spontaneous way. So this is an example of Samprathanatmika prayers. So he is praying that he may develop a similar spontaneous attachment for the Supreme Lord, free from any desire for profit and without any cause, without any other cause. This natural attraction for the Lord is the perfectional stage of self-realization. Then the next paragraph is giving examples for Dainya Bodhika. So he's giving an example from Padma Puran. My dear Lord, there is no sinful living entity who is more of a sinner than myself, nor is there a greater offender than myself. I am so greatly sinful and offensive that when I come to confess my sinful activities before you, I am ashamed. So this is prayers out of humility, Dainya. So like we have songs also, one example? Yes, Ama Jivan Sada Papiratan, so some other prayers are also there like that. So these are Dainya Bodhika. This is a natural position for a devotee. As far as the conditioned soul is concerned, there's no wonder that he has some sinful activities in his past life, and this should be admitted and confessed before the Lord. This is repentance. So repentance is definitely important in the life of a devotee. For what?
Mistakes. Offense.
For what? Why is the repentance important? Yes, so that he gets purified. He gets purified, and then also it creates humility. So when one remembers what has been my past life, then one will understand there's nothing to be proud of. So it will keep one humble and grateful for what one has received, even though I'm unqualified. But then Prabhupada writes, but that does not mean that one should take advantage. Okay, wait. As soon as this is done, the Lord excuses the sincere devotee. That is what happens. The Lord excuses the sincere devotee. But that does not mean that one should take advantage of the Lord's causeless mercy and expect to be excused over and over again while he commits the same sinful activity. Such a mentality is only for shameless persons. He has clearly said, when I come to confess my sinful activities, I become ashamed. So if a person is not ashamed of his sinful activities and continues to commit the same sinful activities with the knowledge that the Lord will excuse him, that is a most nonsensical proposition. Such an idea is not accepted in any part of the Vedic literature. So this is Namno Balad Yasi Papa Buddhi, committing sins on the strength of chanting the holy names. That's what Prabhupada explains. So then he talks about this atonement by the Christians. For one whole week, I may commit sinful activities. For one day, I'll go to the temple or church, admit my sinful activities so that I can be washed off and again begin my sinning. This is most nonsensical and offensive and is not acceptable to the author of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And then example of Lalsamai, he's quoting from Nada Pancharatra. My dear Lord, when shall that day come when you will ask me to fan your body and according to your pleasure you will say you just fan me in this way. So the idea in this verse is that devotee is desiring to personally fan the body of Supreme Personality of Godhead. This means that he is desiring to become the personal associate of the Supreme Lord. And read the last paragraph. In other words,
one should learn how to cry for the Lord. One should learn this small technique. And he should be very eager and actually cry to become engaged in some particular type of service. This is called laulyam. And such tears are the price for the highest perfection. If one develops this laulyam or excessive eagerness for meeting and serving the Lord in a particular way, that is a price to enter into the kingdom of God. Otherwise, there is no material calculation for the value of the ticket by which one can enter the kingdom of God. The only price is such entrance is this laulyam, lalsamai, or desire and
great eagerness. So one must have the laulyam to go back to the spiritual world and work for it. I think somebody asked this question to Shankarshan Prabhu, right? How to cry for the Lord? And what he answered? No. Somebody asked, right?
Yes.
Yes, Trivikram Maharaj also, I think so that same lady asked. Yes, Trivikram Maharaj also, and Maharaj just said, Krishna! And what Shankarshan Prabhu said?
Shankarshan Prabhu said that if you cannot cry for Lord, then cry that you are not able to cry for Lord. And if he's probably continued saying that if you cannot cry for the Lord, that you are not able to cry for the Lord, then cry that you are not crying to
Yes,
able to cry for the Lord.
okay. Hare Krishna. Okay, next. Here, next. Okay, so same thing. So here he is expressing one's insignificance, but that's humility. Next. So this is an example of Sampradana. This is Dainya Bodhika. No sinful living and use more. Next. Okay, next. Sampratnatmika belongs to someone without the appearance of bhav, whereas lalsa or laulyam belong to a person who has manifested bhav. Okay? So sampratnatmika is where one has a desire to achieve perfection, to develop attraction. So that's allowed for sadhakas. But lalsamai is desiring some specific service according to one's constitutional position. That is only at bhava stage. Okay, next. Okay, when will the day come when on the bank of the Yamuna I shall become just like madman, continue to chant your holy name? Okay, that is not for us. Okay. So when a prayer is filled with a similar longing, expressing such bhava, even though not attained, it is called lalsa. This is actually an example, Raganuga Bhakti. So lalsamay prayers are on this platform of Raganuga Bhakti. Next. Okay, hearing, Shravanam. Okay, so here there are a few more. Reciting notable prayers. Okay, notable prayers means authorized prayers. So as Prabhupada writes in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are hundreds of prayers to the Lord. So devotee should select some of these prayers for his recitation. Okay, so Shastric prayers. So best is to recite Shastric prayers, and even if one composes some personal prayers, they must be in line with the Shastric prayers. There must not be so totally some mental concoctions. So, and then he talks about some benefits of reciting these prayers. Then partaking of prasad, needless to say, right? Then drinking Channamrit. So the last sentence Prabhupada says, the devotees who come to visit and offer respects to the deity take 3 drops of Channamrit very submissively and feel themselves happy in transcendental bliss. And what is the effect before that Prabhupada is writing? Will become eligible to enter into the kingdom of God if he simply drinks the Channamrit which is kept in the temple. Then smelling incense, flowers offered to the deity. So then for this he gives example of snake bites. So just like the person who has been bitten by snake is revived by some mantras, or smelling some herbs. Simply by smelling that herb, one becomes immediately relieved of the poisonous effects of the snake bite. The same example is applicable. When a person comes to visit the temple and smells the incense offered to the deity, he is cured at that time from all his material contamination. Another important point he says is, any devotee coming into the temple should always offer something to the deity. Fruit, flowers, incense, etc. If one cannot offer anything in cash, something else must be offered. Prabhupada in some of his lectures he says this, that so previous times in front of the temple they used to have one container for rice, container for sugar, container for atta, and then people would come and put. And then that's how the temples would be run. Like I think so even now in Govindji temple in Jaipur, in the morning time everyone brings something, correct? Huh? Not everyone. But there are some temples in North India I've seen, ISKCON temples also, where practically everyone brings something. Here actually the practice is very less here.
Brahmachari.
What brahmachari? Brahmacharis are offered oneself, what else? Huh? Okay, next is touching the deity. Touching the deity is only for qualified persons. Okay, as Prabhupada writes, only a person who is initiated as a Vaishnava and is executing devotional service in Krishna consciousness has the right to touch the body of the deity. And then he is talking about this Harijan. Anyone can touch. Then seeing the deity, so that's also an important anga of bhakti. So if one goes to the temple, then one will see the deity. And then observing arti, celebrations of the Lord. You see, all these are angas of bhakti Rupa Goswami is giving. So it's not optional. It's not something optional. So just observing the arti is also as good as taking part in the arti. So it's not that, oh, why every day? Why should I see the arti every day? So if one does it, one will get the benefit. Celebrations, that means festivals, Janmashtami, Ramchandra, Julan Yatra. So there's in the Bhavishya Puran, in such a ceremony, if even a Chandala simply out of curiosity sees the Lord on the cart, he becomes counted as one of the associates of Vishnu. Gradually he'll become, no? Yes, because the process has started. Okay, fine. So actually we were supposed to finish one more chapter, but our time is up. So any case, so we will cover up for it tomorrow. Okay. So tomorrow we have to finish. Okay, fine. Anyway, we'll do the needful. All right? Anything else? Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu ki jai, Samved Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.